Good evening. My name is Jeremy Gobiel, and I'm the principal at the Memorial Early Childhood Center. I'm very proud to be the principal here. Welcome to MEC. MEC is certainly a special place. Really looking forward to working with all of next year's kindergarten students and families. This has certainly been an interesting year in that with COVID, we've really kind of, built this plane as we've been flying it, which has been interesting, especially as a first-year principal. But I'm looking forward to next year and whatever everything else has to come. What I would like to do is talk a little bit in a few minutes about the purpose of this evening's parent orientation. We'll get to that in a minute, but one of the things is that I do send out a weekly newsletter to all families, and I'd like to invite all of our incoming kindergarten students to have their the families have their their emails included in that, so that every Friday I send out a newsletter. And if you don't want that, just let me know. Just send me an email and say, I'd rather not. You could wait till next year when your student is actually in the building. But welcome to MEC, our orientation. We're going to have a good time tonight, and hopefully answer some of your questions and get you to understand a little bit more about MEC. So we'll go from there. So here are a few people that I'd like to introduce this evening. We're going to start up on the top here with Katie Goodine, who's the district registrar. Some of you guys may have already met Katie, or you certainly have had some sort of communication with her. She's going to talk a little bit about the registration process, what needs to happen in order for all the registration to be done. Next, we have Ms. Paling, who's one of our kindergarten teachers. Mrs. Favell, who's one of our kindergarten teachers. Mrs. Clements, another one of our kindergarten teachers. Mrs. Lori Johnson, who's our school nurse. And Mrs. Megan Quirk, who is the coordinator of the Family Resource Center, and she'll chat a little bit later as well. So our goals for this evening, what we're trying to do is to introduce the important people of our school. You've already met a few of them in our school community. We will talk to you a little bit about what a typical kindergarten day looks like. We're going to share with you some of our programs and instructional materials. We'll talk about some of our procedures, including arrival and dismissal. We'll talk to you a little bit about some potential upcoming events that we're going to have over the summer, hopefully, depending on how the restrictions change and hopefully lift. And then we're going to try to answer any questions that you may have. If you have comments or questions, you can enter them into the chat, or you can mail them, send an email to what you see on the screen there, questions@middleborough.k12.ma.us. So again, I told you we're going to meet or show you some important people. Mr. Brian Lynch is our superintendent of schools. That was him visiting the MEC last year at one point before things were shut down. It's a picture of me. I'm Mr. Jeremy Gobiel. I'm the principal. Mrs. Kim Redlawn is our special ed coordinator for our building. She also works at the complex as well. And so if you have any questions in regard to special education, we can reach out to Mrs. Kim Redlawn. I'm going to turn things over to Mrs. Katie Goodine, who's our registrar, and let her go from there.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Gobiel, for the introduction. I want to say that this new online registration is going so smoothly, and I want to thank all of you for adapting so well to registering your students online. I know there's been a few hiccups, but it's worked out wonderful. The lockbox located outside my office has been a great addition to getting all the documents to me in an efficient manner without having to schedule times for appointments. It's available 24/7. I'm the only one with a key, so it is very secure. So that's been great as well. And that is located on Mayflower Ave between the Mary K. Good and the Henry B. Birkland buildings, where they meet in the middle at the pool doors. As you can see, most of you have given me all the required documentation, which we'll get to shortly. There are a few of you that I will be reaching out to in regards to proof of residency, such as a mortgage or a lease, as well as a utility bill and your license. There's also required documents of birth certificate, as well as the student's most recent physical and immunization records. I'm trying to have you do it all at once, but don't feel that you can't move forward with the registration process if you have an upcoming physical. The nurse, Ms. Johnson, will talk to you later about that, but we can always move forward and then get that documentation to her as needed. Let me see what else. Okay. So the mortgage or the lease should be dated within the last 60 days so that we do know that you're current residents of the town. If you do not have a mortgage or a lease, please reach out. I know there are a lot of different circumstances for families, and we will make it work for you. You can always email me, which was on the previous slide, I'm sorry, which is kgoodine@middleborough.k12.ma.us. I also will provide you with my cell phone, 508-958-8551, and I have a direct line as well as a fax number, as you can see up on your screen right now. I'm very flexible and will always answer as many questions as I possibly can. Driver's license, there's been a bunch of you that are nervous about that you've just moved to town. As long as you can show that you have residency with your mortgage or lease, a utility bill, and that you've changed your address with the RMV, that will suffice for now for the registration process. So I think we have about 186 students registered so far for kindergarten, and the registration will open up again as of tomorrow if you know a family who has yet to register. So don't be alarmed or nervous. We just had to shut it down so I actually could get caught up. I think if nobody has any questions, Mr. Goldbeal, I think I covered all the registration parts.
That sounds good to me. Thank you, Mrs. Goodine. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Lori Johnson, who's our school nurse. Does a wonderful job of taking care of your students, or will do a wonderful job of taking care of your students next year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gobiel. Hi, my name is Laurie Johnson. I'm the school nurse at the preschool and kindergarten. Welcome to our orientation. I just want to make sure you take a look at my contact information there also for questions at any time, or email me. And that is a Laurie_Johnson, just so that you're aware. So I will get the emails. I would like to go over some of the state mandated requirements for your child to come to kindergarten this year. I will need their 5-year physical. If they're not due because you fell behind a little bit, I'll need the 4-year physical for them to start. And then once they have their 5-year, I will need that. They do need to be up to date on their immunizations. They do need to have a lead level done just once in their lifetime. You don't have to have another one done. And the 5-year vision exam with stereopsis, which is a depth perception test, does need to be done at the pediatrician's office, or if they have eyeglasses, I can get the report from the ophthalmologist. Please make sure that all of these things are on the physical when you bring it to me or give it to Mrs. Goodine. And just be aware that your child cannot start with all of these things. You can also scan and email me their physical. If you get it in the summer, I will print it. If your child, like I said, isn't due for their 5-year physical until after school starts, they do have to be up to date on the immunizations. And if they are not, you do have to have an appointment with the nurse just to get that. And I will meet with all of you during the screening, and I'll let you know if something is missing on the physical. If your child has a medical concern or a health condition, obviously, I ask that you please let me be aware of that. If your child is going to require medications at school, I do need a doctor's order. And just know, because I do get doctor's orders and it's dated before June 30th. It does have to be dated after June 30th. Anything before is considered this school year. I do need you to fill out the authorization for me to give your child medication. And I will also give you a care plan that we work together on that. And I ask that you put a picture of your child on it. I do give a copy of the care plan to the classroom teacher, the principal, the cafeteria, if it has to do with allergies or seizures. I do give a copy of the care plan also to our specialists like Art and Jim and everybody, so that everybody is aware. If your child will be on a bus, I do ask that you please let the bus driver know of your child's medical condition, because I am not allowed, because of HIPAA reasons, to disclose that to the bus drivers. I think we're on the next slide, please. I'd like to go over just a few of the protocols regarding illness. This year was quite different because of COVID. So on there, cough and sneeze etiquette, I'm sure that you've gone over and over and over this with your child all year, for a year, and they wear a mask. So it's actually been great. Not that we love the masks, but we have had a lot less flu, pneumonia, strep throat. It's the mask has stopped that, I'm sure. If your child does have a fever, they do need to be home without medication for 24 hours. If they are vomiting or have diarrhea, they also have to be home for 24 hours after the last episode and feeling well enough to be here, because it is a long day and they're 5 years old. If your child is diagnosed with pneumonia, strep throat, impetigo, anything that is contagious, they do need to be on the antibiotic for 24 hours before they can come back. We do encourage healthy snacks. We do have a health and wellness policy. We ask that you stick with that so that they stay healthy. We do not share food. We are a peanut-aware school. And we will go over all of that if your child has an allergy when I meet with you in May. Please take note there of that Safe to School number. That is only for our school. And if your child is not going to be here for any reason, whether it's personal reasons or whatever, I do ask that you call that number. I do listen to that number. It's just a recording that you're talking to, and I listen to it every morning. And if you don't call, especially this year, I do have to call all those parents to check for symptoms of COVID and go over all those guidelines. Please send in extra clothes with your child so that if they do have an accident, they do have their own clothes. And I do have my own website. If you want to check it out, it is under the MEC school, under student and families, and then it will say nurse's office, and there's all forms on there and everything also. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Welcome to our orientation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Appreciate all that information. I know that people do have questions, will have questions about your role as in regard to nursing in the school. And again, any questions that people have, please, reach out. You can reach out to the school. You can call us. You can email. We know that this is probably an anxious time for parents, and especially if this is your first child starting their educational journey. And we take that responsibility really very seriously. So any questions that you have, communication is a big part of what we do here. All right. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Meg Quirk, who is the coordinator of our Family Resource Center. She is an invaluable resource to all of us, and just a great person to have around.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gobiel. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the time here for me to present about the Family Resource Center very briefly and go over some of the areas that I can help families connect with resources and information. So, as you can see, the list here, it's a section of a larger list that can be found on my website, and on the next slide you'll see that. But to start, I do have a clothing bank and I do have a snack program, and I do have wonderful resources out in the community that can help people with clothing vouchers. I have wonderful resources and connections if someone's looking for employment, health insurance. We have a phenomenal resource in town. It's called Interface that can help folks connect with emotional and behavioral health services. It's a free mental health referral service. Again, that can be found on my website. I help families connect with childcare, and I have had many conversations over the last year, especially around childcare and different kinds of placements depending on what you're looking for. Of course, there's so much to do, so many fun, wonderful programs out there with respect to extracurricular programming. So feel free to reach out if you're looking for anything for after school or over the summer. There are a couple of tutoring resources, but that one is definitely more specific to a couple of resources. I hope to develop that area. Of course, school transition to kindergarten over the last 5 years, we've been fortunate to be able to have some really wonderful programming, and my goal is to bring all of those awesome events back when we can come back together in person. We do have again, a lot of wonderful social emotional programming out in the community that offers social skills groups, support groups, parenting workshops, and of course, I also help families with housing and transportation. My ask is with respect to housing is if you are looking for housing or if you're in an emergency situation, please call me and or email me without too much delay, as it is a pretty it's one of those areas that I like to jump on really quickly. So if you are in a situation where you're struggling with housing, especially right now, please call and I can help to connect you very quickly with the best resource that I can find. So if you want to go to the next slide, Sean. So this is my contact information. As you can see on the bottom is my website. If you go to the Middleborough Public Schools website and you go to the community tab and you drop down, it'll bring you to the Middleborough Family Resource Center's website. And on the left-hand side is also the Family Resource Center update, which I like to publish a couple of times a year, every couple of months to do a seasonal update. So resources, information, things that are going on are going to be in there. So my email is there. I'm extension 4319 and my office is in the Berkland School. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here for all families in the Middleborough Public Schools, and my goal is to be a liaison to help you connect quickly and efficiently and make your life a lot easier, especially our incoming kindergarten families. Just reach out and don't be a stranger. I'm here to help. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Quirk. I can't stress enough how much of a great resource Mrs. Quirk is in the Family Resource Center, and it's been great having her in the building in the district for the last several years. It truly is a resource center. So if there's anything that you need, certainly communicate with classroom teachers, with the contacts that you have here in the buildings. But we will potentially, reach out to Mrs. Quirk and get you connected with her. She never says no. She just is always willing to do whatever it takes to support families. So please reach out to us if you have any needs at all. We'll figure it out. So as far as kindergarten transition events, Mrs. Quirk sort of mentioned historically they have had some wonderful things here. We have had some wonderful things here, including like Soul Farm and the block parties and just so many great things going on here. This year has certainly been different. And we've learned some things and we're going to take some things away in a positive way. So some of the stuff is still kind of up in the air. And this year we sort of did our best to put a plan together for how kindergarten was going to look, and we had to adjust and adapt and overcome and adjust. It's okay, and we're still in that place. But we would like to have some transition events, as Mrs. Quirk had mentioned, some things that she can do, whether it's we're still in the current state of restrictions that we're in right now, or if things change, we'd like to put some things together to help our kids and families become familiar with MEC and get ready for kindergarten. We will send out placement letters so that you will know who your classroom teachers will be sometime in August. We're in the process of, we're starting to get ready for that process of determining placements for our current kindergarten kids going to first grade and seeing what that looks like, and then taking all of the students who have been registered for kindergarten and figuring out how to place them. I'll talk a little bit later about the screening process, which is part of our placement process. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But those letters will go home in August, so you'll know who your classroom teacher is going to be for kindergarten at that point. We would like to do, and our plan is to do, an orientation first couple days in September when the rest of the district is in school. Generally, K has our own sort of orientation days. So we did that this year. It was great. It was different again, like anything else this year, but we will put that in place so that kids can come in, parents can come in, or a parent can come in, depending on where things are at, and meet the classroom teachers, see the building, and visit the school, possibly take a bus ride. I know that probably for most of our incoming kindergarten students, they haven't ridden on a big yellow bus, and that's okay. And so what we'd like to do is show them what it looks like. And minimally, I'm thinking even just having a bus parked out front, or a couple buses parked out front, and having kids and parents jump on the bus and sit on a seat and see what it's like to be on a bus, but hopefully take a bus ride. I do encourage you all to join the MEC Facebook page, and there's also a Families of MEC page. The Families of MEC page is really run through our PTA, and Mrs. Langdon will talk in a little bit. We have a video that she put together, and she's here to answer some questions as well. It is important that we make sure we have updated email addresses for everybody. I know that through the registration process, Mrs. Goodine has worked on that and try to communicate that with everybody, how important that is. So please make sure that we have your updated email information. So as I mentioned, the other part of placement to some degree is we're going to do some screenings, and kindergarten screening kind of it runs the gambit from being pretty basic to really kind of intense, not necessarily here in Middleborough, but just everywhere. And this past year, we did not have any kind of kindergarten screening. And the screening really is just for us to be able to put our eyes on our students, our incoming students. So what will happen from here is that you will get an email explaining when your day and sort of time frame is for your kindergarten screening, and we'd ask that you come into the school. Again, we're asking that it'll be one parent with the student. We'll let you know about that. That'll happen probably the week after vacation. But we're doing screenings on Fridays in May, so it'll be every Friday in May. We ask again that parents and guardians park in the parking lot outside behind no, actually, we're going to have to figure this out still. We're still working on details on it, but we're looking at doing the screenings in the cafeteria, which we're not currently using. We're using our gym as our cafeteria. And what ultimately the kindergarten screening is about, and please, my teachers, if you want to jump in and while you're talking, talk a little bit more about the screening processes. It's for us to just kind of put again, as I said, put our eyes on the child and see kind of like where they're at right now. And a lot of things are going to change. A lot's going to change between May and when we start in September. So, and they'll be asked to do some certain tasks like writing their name, drawing a picture, describing some objects, those kind of things, so we can kind of get a gauge on where our kids are at as they come into kindergarten. We also will, at that point, like while your student is being screened by one of our teachers, ask parents to give us a little information. It's I think a two-page or front to back page survey, just asking a little bit about, what you see as their strengths, what you see as their need areas, what, experience in schooling and whatnot. So that'll be the screening process. You'll get more information about that in the next couple of weeks. Mr. Siciliano? So at this point, what I'd like to do is turn it over to our some of our kindergarten team. We have Mrs. Clements, I have Mrs. Favell, and yep, there we are, and we have Ms. Paling, who will talk to you a little bit about the K process and more about sort of the nuts and bolts of what school looks like. So, thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Mr. G.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Mrs. Favell. I'm one of the kindergarten teachers here at the MEC. Tonight, I have to tell you, we're very excited to share with you all the wonderful things that kindergarten has to offer 5- and 6-year-olds here in Middleborough. I have to say our staff is a very dedicated group of professionals. We offer such a warm, safe, nurturing environment in which your child is going to receive an excellent academic and social emotional experience. Here at the MEC, we currently have 12 kindergarten classrooms, and we are very lucky to have a paraprofessional or an ESP, otherwise known as an aide, in every classroom. Not all buildings, not all grades in Middleborough have that, so we're very, very lucky to have that. We have 3 special education teachers. We have speech therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and adaptive phys ed services. We also are lucky to have a Title I reading support specialist. Next slide, Mr. Siciliano. Thank you. So I'm going to start so you can be able to put a face to a name. The top right is myself, Mrs. Favell. Then next is Mrs. Camo. Next is Mrs. Green. And the last top on the right is Mrs. O'Halloran. In the middle row, we have Mrs. Clements, Mrs. Quattrucci, and Mrs. Lord. Down on the bottom left is Mrs. Condry, Miss Paling, Miss Setcher, and Miss Stoker. Next slide, please. Not only do we have kindergarten teachers that are in all the classrooms, but we also have a special education team and reading specialist. The first one on the top left is one of our special needs teachers. Her name is Kathy Gillespie. The next is Shannon Kearney. She is one of our speech and language therapists that work with kindergarten students. The next one over is Miss Tara Dubois. She is another special ed teacher. And the last picture on the top right is our school psychologist, Kara Drugan. On the bottom row, on the bottom left is another special ed teacher, Miss Henry. And then we have Rachel Fernandez, who is another speech and language therapist. And then we have Wendy Youngclaws, who is one of our district's behavior therapists. And at the bottom right is Mari Gates, who is our Title I reading specialist. Again, we are very, very lucky to have all of these specialists that come into our classrooms and service all of the children and their needs.
Hi, families. My name is Bridget Clements. I'm a kindergarten teacher at the MEC. We are so excited for our new class to be talking to our new class that'll be starting in September. One of the biggest questions and most anxious moments for kiddos and parents when they start kindergarten is the bus ride and what it's going to look like and when they get to the school and how that's going to work. So I'm going to explain that all to you. When your kiddos get picked up at their bus stop, their bus will come to our school. It'll come right up to the front of the building. There are extra staff for our building out front to greet your kiddos every morning, to help them off the bus and to make sure they go into the right door and into their classroom. There's staff every couple of feet to help people get where they need to go. The kiddos are really great about really finding their way really quicker than you would ever imagine. So they do a really great job with that. When your kiddo starts school in the fall, they are going to get a bus tag. And on that bus tag, it's going to have their name, and it's going to have the bus that they come in on in the morning, and the bus they leave on in the afternoon. And that in each tag has a different color. It just depends on what floor you're on, if you're on the second floor or first floor. That's more for the teachers, for our knowledge. And like you said, you will receive that in September. And we fill that out for you, so don't worry about that. We just ask that you double check it to make sure that it's right. And that's going to go on the outside of their backpacks. That's a really important thing that goes on their backpacks for the first couple weeks of school, especially because every teacher will be checking your kiddos' backpack to see what bus that they're on, make sure they're going in the right spot. School begins at 8:30, where parents can drop their kiddos off in the back of the building. If you drive around to the back of the building, like where the football field is, you're going to pull up there. There will be a staff member there to help your kiddo out of the car, and they will go right into school from there, and of course with supervision from staff members. Like I said before, buses will drop your kiddo off in the front of the building, and there's staff members there to greet them every morning to help them along and get where they need to be. And instruction begins at 8:55. Next slide, please. The first couple days of kindergarten, we do it a little bit differently. The kiddos will come in off of the buses and they'll go right down the stairs to the big gym. And that's where we will all be. Your child's kindergarten teacher will be waiting for them with their class. And we do it just this way because it gets a little overwhelming those first couple days. So they get to know what we look like, where we're going, the kids in their class. So we all what we do is we have everybody come into the gym and wait for all the buses to come in, and then class by class, we will go back to our classrooms. And then after that, we feel that the kiddos are comfortable. They'll start coming in off the buses, going right to their classrooms. And there's staff members along the way all the time. We have great volunteers, PTA volunteers, some even past parents come back and will help us out those first couple weeks of school to make sure our kiddos are safe and they know where they're going and where they're going. I think that's it. And then the opposite time of the day when the kiddos are going home. So what's going to happen is we have very kind of different busing system. We have 4 shuttle buses that will come to our school in the afternoon. And your child will get on one of those 4 shuttle buses and be brought over to the complex, to the Mary Kay Good School or to the Berkland School on their transfer bus. The transfer bus is going to be the same bus every year, throughout the year. The bus drivers, the kindergarten bus drivers, actually all the bus drivers in our district are pretty awesome, and they're even better for our kindergarten kids. They really keep their eyes out for them. They really take care of them. They really put them under their wing. So please feel safe knowing that that's who they're going to be with. When they get on their transfer bus, their bus driver usually puts them in a certain seat with other kids from their buses. And then they'll take that short bus ride over to the Berkland School or to the Mary Kay Good School. And when they arrive over there in their shuttle bus, there will be a kindergarten staff member at each building to get those kiddos off the bus and then to put them on the bus that they will go home on. We do this because it's a familiar face from kindergarten, especially going to a different school from where they just left. So it really helps the kiddos get used to it. They know what bus number they're on that's going to take them home, and that staff member will walk them to their bus and put them on the bus that they will go home on. It's really important that parents talk about the rules for riding a bus, being safe, what's expected behavior, and teachers will talk about that too with them. Some parents pick their kiddos up every afternoon, and that is parent pickup for our school is down in the gym, and your parents are going to park by the preschool playground, and you'll see other parents waiting there. And what you'll need to do is fill out a release form before school starts, and you're going to go to walk into the building, tell the teacher who your kiddo is. You will need to have identification. We'll ID you to make sure that that's who you are and that that's your kiddo that we're releasing you to. So that's it. Can't wait to see you in the fall.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lily Kaling. I'm one of the kindergarten teachers at the Memorial Early Childhood Center. We're excited to welcome you and the class of 2034 to Middleborough in the fall. If you didn't feel old before, there you go. I'm going to talk to you a little bit just kind of what a typical day in kindergarten looks like, and about our curriculum and things like that. On this slide here is transportation, what Mrs. Clements was just talking about, just some contact information, and you'll get all of that in the fall as well. So we're excited for the upcoming school year, and we're looking forward to sharing the experience that is kindergarten with you. The growth that occurs in kindergarten is really unlike any other. It's amazing to see. The kids come in with baseline or very minimal, academic skills or even social skills. Some of them have never been in this place called school before, and they leave reading and writing and thinking outside of the box. And it's a joy to witness, but also be involved in that. So we're really excited, and we're excited for you and your kids to join us next year. Kindergarten has changed a lot over the years. It's not what kindergarten used to look like when you or I were in school. The expectations are certainly rising, but the neat thing is that the kids are rising right along with them. They amaze us every day with what they come out with, what they say, what they're able to show that they know how to do. So that's really nice to see. The typical day in K obviously looks a bit different this year. We've kind of reinvented the wheel to try to navigate COVID guidelines and, teaching and learning from home and in school and going back and forth. It's certainly been a whirlwind. But all the teachers at the MEC really, really work hard to keep everything as engaging and hands-on as possible. We've really tried to integrate as much normalcy into the kindergarten day as possible. And the awesome thing about 5- and 6-year-olds is that they are so resilient, and they kind of just go with the flow and adapt to what we're throwing at them, even if that changes daily. So what I'm going to tell you about is a typical day in K, but shifted a little bit here and there depending on, COVID and things like that. So the kiddos will come in for arrival, like Mrs. Clements was telling us about. They'll typically have some sort of wake-up work or hands-on activity to get them started. They'll begin their day with a morning meeting. So they greet their teacher, they greet all their friends. We talk about, routines for the day. They'll do things like calendar and weather. They'll put up a schedule for the day or have a morning message from their teacher. Our reading and writing and phonics programs, we follow a workshop model as best we can with COVID, but lots of center-based hands-on literacy activities, phonemic awareness, phonics, guided reading, shared reading, different things like that. Writers workshop, kids will work in a whole group and small group. That's a really neat time of the day to see the kids write their own books, and they really view themselves as authors and illustrators, which is really neat. For math, we use the Envisions math resource. We also do a workshop model with that. So when I'm talking about a workshop model, typically it's the teacher saying, okay, I'm going to do something I do, and showing the kids how to do it. And then we're going to practice it together, and then you do, sending them off to do it on their own. We've done a lot of work the past few years to kind of tweak our math program and make everything really kindergarten, age appropriate, along with homework and things like that. For our science and social studies, we do, a variety of thematic-based units of study. We follow a STEAM model, so science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. We follow the state standards. We do a whole STEAM week at MEC and try to make science and social studies as hands-on as possible. We also follow a variety of social emotional curriculums. We do responsive classroom, zones of regulation, so the kiddos learn to think about their emotions and their feelings and what zone they're in and kind of how to react to different social situations. We're lucky enough to have, school psychologists visiting each room and talking to the kids about the zones of regulations and things like that. And we do that, that's kind of like the basis of everything we do in kindergarten, just teaching them how to be functional little mini humans in this place called school. And it really is just amazing to see kind of the substantial growth that occurs in K. So lunch and recess is also a big part of the kindergarten day. Social hour in the cafeteria. A lot of times we're walking around, telling telling the kids, remember to eat, don't forget to eat your lunch, because they're so busy talking and things. Rebecca Bagnell is the food services director. Sheila Poudriere is the head cook at MEC, and then Adrian Cheney also works in the cafeteria. So the way that it works, students will get a 4-digit PIN number, and in kindergarten we usually do like a lunch baggie system, so they don't have to worry about memorizing a number, but the kids always have an option to bring, you know, a cold lunch from home or purchase hot lunch at school. We have lunch monitors and paraprofessionals in the cafeteria at all times. Lunch is 30 minutes long, and recess is also 30 minutes long. And recess is either, you know, before lunch or right after lunch. Another part of our kindergarten day on the next slide is unified arts. So kids have an opportunity every day to have one specialist period. So it's either phys ed, art, music, technology, or library. Each period is 45 minutes long, and kids really, really enjoy this time of the day, getting to meet the specialist teachers and getting to do things that, you know, just outside of their regular classroom. They really enjoy that time of the day. On the next slide, there are some pictures of our unified arts teachers. So we have Mrs. Odie Morrison, who teaches art, Mrs. Iveson, music and computers, and then Miss Florio is our library and physical education teacher. Kids really do, you know, enjoy that part of the day, and they get to do a variety of things in their classes. I'm going to quickly touch base on what can you know, as families do for the next 4 months to help get your kiddo ready to come to us in the MEC. I talked a lot about like the social emotional things, but basic, you know, self-help skills. Try to get them practicing independent skills, like getting them into a routine, you know, start scheduling a bedtime. We don't take naps at all in kindergarten. So if they are still napping, you know, thinking about trying to get them, weaning them off of that so that they're ready to go the whole day in kindergarten. Things like dressing themselves, you know, snapping buttons and zipping coats, cleaning up their own area after they're done playing and eating is really helpful. Self-sufficient in the bathroom. We can't, you know, zipper or help, you know, in the bathroom. So that's something that kids need to be able to do on their own. Other self-help skills, you know, blowing noses, tying shoes, washing their hands is all going to help them. Packing and unpacking folders and snacks, knowing if they're going to bring their lunch from home or buy lunch at school is helpful. You know, and with everything, I mean, although independence is the goal, sometimes, you know, we're going to ask you as parents to use your best judgment. If a kiddo wants to come to school in January wearing shorts, you know, maybe try to make them choose another option. All in stride, but getting them to just start to think about being independent with a lot of those things will help them succeed in kindergarten, and it's also going to help us a lot. You know, Mr. Gobiel talked about earlier, you know, what overcoming and what's been a very unique situation this year, and trying to get used to going back and forth and hybrid, and fingers crossed we won't have to do any of that next year. And it certainly has been a difficult situation and a unique one, but I think the silver lining has really been, you know, as kindergarten teachers, we love being with your kids. We truly love what we do. But this unique circumstance has really made us that much more grateful to be with your kids. We have signs all over the school that say together is better. You know, we're so thrilled to be back in person with them. And it's also made us more grateful for our relationship with you and with families. The support that we've gotten from families this year has been above and beyond, because that's just the nature of how it's been. But the silver lining just to all of this is that we really are like that much more. Just we love doing what we're doing. And we're so excited for you to join our MEC family. We look forward to seeing you in the fall.
Ms. Paling, if I can just add something, that it takes a village, as we've all said, and we count on the families to be part of this educational experience. So we look forward to meeting all the families and all the children, but as well to make sure you take part of that educational experience, because it's really, get ready, because once we go, we're going, and you'll see your children fly with such success.
Thank you, Ms. Favell. Yes, they're definitely on this journey, and I thank all of the three of you for joining us tonight. And for our parents, you know, those are three of our teachers, and they, you know, are representative of all the teachers that work in the building that will be caring for your children. So it's interesting. I'm sitting here thinking, watching them. I have children. I have twins that are 17 years old, and I have a son who's 14 years old. And it's just so interesting to think about and to listen to Ms. Paling talking about like zipping up zippers and blowing noses and all that stuff. And that for me was so long ago, feels so long ago. And it's the first time, or potentially the first time for a lot of you parents. And it's an interesting process. So I do want to introduce Tennille Langdon, who is our president of our PTA. We have a really great PTA this year. It's interesting at MEC. It's unique in that we have parents generally here for 1 year. So you're here as a parent in our school for 1 year. We have I think about 45 students who have gone through our pre-K program who are coming in to us as kindergartners. So we have those parents for 2 years, which is nice. At the complex at MKG and HBB, the grades 1 through 5 schools, you can be involved for 5 years at the same school, which is great. And it is our PTA is really important to us, and they do some really wonderful things in regard to raising money for enrichment activities. We've had some wonderful already enrichment activities this year. Generally in the past, it's been even more so, but so I have a video of Mrs. Langdon, and she's here. She's live, so she'll be able to answer some questions at the end if people have questions specific to her in regard to the PTA. So, Mr. Siciliano, if you want to hit that video.
Everyone, my name is Tennille Langdon, and I'm the president of the PTA at the MEC School. I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself, introduce the PTA to all of you, and welcome you all to the MEC School community. We hope that you will consider joining the PTA, either as a volunteer, a member of the PTA, or possibly one of our board positions, which will be open for the 21-22 school year, which you're currently vice president and treasurer. The PTA is a wonderful organization of parents and family that help support programming, enrichment, and teacher support for our school community. We do fundraising throughout the year. We provide programming and activities to our students, provide support to our teachers, and we need everyone's help in order to accomplish all of these wonderful goals that we have set. We will be at some important upcoming events, providing more information and literature about the PTA, how you can get involved, and also an opportunity for you to sign up at that time. Please look for us at kindergarten screening and preschool screening. You can always reach us through Facebook or through our email as well, which is mecpta@outlook.com. I truly look forward to meeting all of you and welcome you to our community. Thank you, and have a great evening and a wonderful summer.
Thank you, Ms. Langdon. Appreciate that. So just this, like so much this year, everything is kind of to be determined. I do encourage people to utilize the Middleborough Public Schools school calendar. The calendar for next year, the website, the calendar for next year is yet to be determined. I think they're talking about it tomorrow at school committee. But as far as like when school will start, what the first days of school are, again, we will have an orientation. And it worked out really well this year in that we had, limited access, but some restrictions, but we ended up getting all the kids in and parents in to meet with their teacher before school started. So I mentioned earlier, the placement letters will go out sometime in mid-August, so you'll know who your classroom teacher is. Bus routes will be determined as well, again, mid-August. September dates have not been determined yet as far as when school's starting. Kindergarten orientation. At kindergarten orientation, we'll have the bus tags that a couple of our teachers had mentioned. That's really important to us. I still today even had, a couple of kids that I just wanted to make sure to double check their bus tag. It's on their backpack. It's attached. I was able to make sure that they got on the right bus. They know at this point where they're going for the most part, but it just gives me, reassurance, and I hope it gives you as parents reassurance as well. And again, for our first full day of kindergarten. So, Sean, next slide, please. So contact information for MEC. You have my information there. Again, Mrs. Kim Redlawn is the special ed coordinator. So if you have questions in regard to special education, Mrs. Mindy Fuller is our secretary. Her information is there. And Mrs. Johnson, who's our school nurse, her information is there as well. So I'm hoping that we have some questions. I'm going to bring, I think, everybody back into the show here and answer any questions that people have and people have been putting up through the question contact. All right, so in regard to the bus pickup, what should happen is the morning, the bus company will give you the bus routes and tell you what bus your student is going to be on. It will be the same as in the morning as it is in the afternoon, if I'm reading that correctly. And interestingly, that seems to be the only question we have. Give it a few seconds. If anybody else has any questions, you can certainly type it in. Otherwise, you can certainly reach out to me. You can call the school during our school hours, and we're happy to answer any questions. Again, we want you to know how seriously we take this responsibility of caring for your children, and it's something that we value and appreciate, and we need to work collaboratively with you. It takes a village. It takes a village. Question about, can we request a specific teacher? I have had requests about specific teachers, especially families who have had a sibling who have had a particularly good relationship with a specific teacher. Personally, I kind of frown on this because all of our teachers are wonderful, and if you have some specifics in regard to a learning style that your child benefits best from, I would definitely take that into consideration, because while all of our teachers are wonderful kind of across the board, there are some that I know are have different strengths and quality. So I'm open to that. I generally don't like to request, don't like to honor. Not that I don't like to honor, but I don't. All of our teachers are great, basically. So, would you please touch upon the Champions program? Yes, I can. We can make sure we get you information about the Champions program. Again, like everything else this year, we don't know what that's going to look like next year. They were in our building every day for our kids that were hybrid. So say a kid was in cohort 2, they would go to Champions in our cafeteria for cohort 3 days and be hybrid in there, or be remote in there. But we can definitely make sure we have information for you on the Champions program. Peanuts and peanut butter products. It's not that they're not allowed, because I love peanut butter and I love peanut products. That's not the reason why they're not. But it's as a parent, no, you can, for like a lunch, you can send that in. But if a child has, we would like to ask that people, it's not just peanuts either. It's peanuts, tree nuts. We are an allergy aware building school. So if you send a sandwich in with your child and it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, they can still have that. That's not a big deal, because we make sure that is taken care of. And again, like anything else, this year is a little bit different. The kids are all eating in our gymnasium 6 feet apart. Like, it's not really an issue. But Mrs. Johnson, I don't know if you want to touch any more on that, or
as you said, we are a peanut aware school, so we don't serve anything in the cafeteria that has any peanut products. So if your child does have an allergy, obviously we would talk about that. A lot of times our allergy students might be in the same classroom, and I do send out letters if your child has a peanut allergy or tree nut allergy. I send out a letter and ask that the other students in that classroom not bring in peanut products for snack, because typically snack is in the classroom, but they can have peanut butter sandwich because they go to the cafeteria and it's safe in there the way we have it set up. And I'll go over all of this with whomever.
Yeah, and the other issue with that is I'm thinking more along the lines of, like, my child is in a classroom with a student who has a severe food allergy. Like, does that mean I can't send certain things in? And my answer to that is no. My answer to that is yes, you can. Like, we don't say you can't have these certain snacks. We would just try to figure out some sort of an alternative arrangement for that child. Does that make sense, Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah, I go over all of this with anyone that I meet with that has any sort of medical concerns, because it's not, there's egg allergies, there's all sorts of allergies.
Yep. Are we wearing masks if teachers are vaccinated? If so, will there be mask breaks? At this point, nobody's mandating that teachers are getting vaccinated. That's not an issue. We're not asking. Like, this is the same thing with families. So we have no idea about what September is going to bring in regard to CDC and mask DPH regulations around, and ultimately DESE regulations around mask wearing.
Mr. Gobiel, just to jump in, but we do regular mask breaks throughout the day in kindergarten. I think classrooms are either outside like once an hour, or even we have like put spots in our classroom so that kids can sit 6 feet apart to take a mask break if we can't go out, if it's inclement weather or something. So yes, we'll schedule regular mask breaks if we're required to wear masks in the fall.
Thank you, Ms. Paling. And like everything else this year, we've figured it out as we've moved along. Like it's different here than it is at the high school. So that's all good. If a student has a tough time at the beginning of school, my thing with this is communication with the classroom teacher is paramount. And if your child is coming home and they're exhausted, or they're crying, or they are having a hard time making friends, or anything is going on, I ask that my first line of defense is the classroom teacher, and you reach out to them and you have that conversation and say, how is my son or daughter doing, when you're with them? Because what happens a lot of times is when your kids are here, they can hold it together, and then they come home and sometimes they'll fall apart and be kind of a mess and be exhausted and be like, I'm just so emotionally a mess. So I just ask that you communicate start with the classroom teachers. You can always reach out to me. I don't ever have a problem with that. I usually will say, have you talked to the teacher about the concerns? So start with that, and then from there, we can move forward. We have our school psychologist. We have myself. We have supports in the building where we can support kids if they're struggling. And families too. Let's put it out there. Like, hey, I remember when my kids went to kindergarten, I was struggling. So, it's okay to be reassured.
And if it is any, consolation, Mr. Gobiel, they are in such a structured environment. The kids learn very quickly, like what they're going to expect and, what's coming next. All the teachers are really, really talented at what they do in helping kids, with that transition, because it is a big transition, for you and for, your babies that you're sending off to us. So the teachers will all work, with families to make that as smooth of a transition as possible. And your kiddo will soon love coming to school.
And we do a lot about talking about emotions and feelings and everything, especially at the beginning of the year. So you'll hear common language coming home from your child about how they're feeling today. Are they feeling happy, sad, frustrated? And again, that goes back to the responsive classroom and the zones regulation, social emotional curriculum. So they learn very quickly, and they observe all their peers. So it's really nice to see. And a father might come in and say, oh, my child's just not going to make it. Don't worry. They're in good hands, and we will get them through it. And we need more support, we'll get it. But just reassure your child they're going to have a successful year.
I also think, Mrs. Favell, along those same lines, like these kids are 5 and 6 years old, and like we understand that, and they're never alone. Like they constantly have adults' eyes on them. These are kindergarten teachers and administrators and staff, nurses that just are always looking and observing and trying to see where kids are at. And we are very in tune to, where the kids are emotionally. So, Mr. Siciliano, there was a question about how many students are in an average kindergarten classroom. I just keep the number 20 in mind. That's kind of where we're at. It can get up to 25, I think, at times, but generally it's right around 20. The bus routes will be posted again sometime in mid-August. You can always call the bus company, 508-923-0990. And Tracy at First Student can help you answer that question. There should be a link, and I don't know, Mr. Siciliano, if it's out there, that access to the bus company. But it's First Student. Her name is Tracy. She's fantastic. She'll answer any questions that you have. I'm going to let one of our classroom teachers maybe answer this question about if your child has an accident.
Sure. So accidents happen regularly in kindergarten. Mrs. Johnson talked about, sending in a spare change of clothes at the beginning of the year. And that's not even just for a bathroom accident. It's kindergarten. We get really messy sometimes if we're outside or painting or gluing or, God forbid, glitter. But accidents happen, and we're all used to dealing with them discreetly and quickly. And we'll definitely, help your child. If it is something, in the bathroom that we can't physically help with, then we'll call Nurse Johnson, and she can come up and help. But we make accidents happen in front of the kids just to show them, that accidents do happen, and that's okay. And it probably will. But just send in clothes at the beginning of the year, and we'll take it from there.
In a Ziploc bag with their labeled name on it, and we leave it in their cubby all year long. Well, actually, we do change it out in December and then in the spring, because as you know, the children grow so much.
In regard to the masks, there's district policies regarding that as far as keeping masks on. It's been such an amazing year with pre-K and K in this building, and concerns about masks and whether or not the children will keep their masks on. I can't believe how amazing they've been in this regard. A lot of it is like they'll wear their masks like this and just cover your nose. But no, if there are certain conditions that students have that have doctor's orders where they can't wear masks, and that's okay. And we have protocols in place in regard to that. Maintaining 6 feet of distance if a child doesn't have a mask on. It's been amazing, like watching kids out at recess, because we have the climbing structures, and we say to the kids, this is a mask break. So if you want to take your mask off, you can take your mask off, but you have to be 6 feet away from anybody else. And you can't be on the climbing structure if you don't have a mask on. And the kids just generally go out there for the 30 minutes that we have our recess extended mask breaks. They keep their masks on because they're playing and they're having fun. And then if they need to take a break, they go and sit by themselves for a few minutes and take their mask off, and it works out really well. Okay. Mr. Siciliano, any other questions? I don't see any. All right, cool. We can wrap things up. This recording, this will be recorded. This was recorded and it'll be posted and available if people have want to go back and check it out again. And also, again, I keep saying, if you have any questions, you have some great resources here. You can certainly call the main office, and we can redirect you to wherever it needs to be redirected to. And again, with Mrs. Quirk here and Mrs. Langdon, sort of outside the building a little bit, but they can answer any questions specific to them. And please let me know if you have any questions or issues. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
See you at screening.